Hello and welcome to my review for the first film I saw in 2019. So we're into the 2019 reviews now. I'm going to try and continue keeping up with regular release reviews if I can. And it is the film from Yorgos Lanthimos, I think. I've even forgotten his name now. Regardless, it's from that director who brought us such films as The Lobster and The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I haven't seen, but now I'm really intrigued to. It is The Favourite. Period film set in it's either the late 1600s or the early 1700s. I'm not quite sure on the timeline as far as Queen Anne's life, nor am I familiar with the time period at all whatsoever. Anyway, and it follows Queen Anne, played by Olivia Colman, and her, I'm not sure what her official title is, but kind of her second-hand woman, her right-hand woman, I should say, Lady Marlborough, Sarah, played by Rachel Weisz, who is a great actress, along with Olivia Colman, and then you just throw in another, Academy Award-winning actress in Emma Stone, who comes in as Abigail, the cousin of Lady Marlborough, who used to be a lady and has fallen down on hard times. Her father sold her off when she was 15, and so she's now gone from having a place of stature to being nothing, and she comes to the castle, the estate of the Queen, to deliver a message to her cousin Sarah, and then she asks for a job in the building, and so she becomes a maid, is treated like dirt, they play pranks on her, she burns her hand, things are miserable for Abigail, and Emma Stone gives a real weight to that kind of struggle. Like she doesn't show it much, but you can tell that it's grinding her down somewhat, and eventually she gets to kind of meet the Queen and kind of wins her over a little bit, and she decides to use that in her favor to create a better life for herself. And so all becomes about Abigail and Sarah playing off each other to see who is going to be the favorite of the Queen. Queen Anne is a very tragic character in the film. She has to be moved around in a wheelchair. She's gained a bit of weight. She's gone through a very traumatic life in terms of the 17 children that she has lost in her lifetime, either through miscarriages or children have died very young. And so she's in a place where she's very vulnerable, and that goes down to the political decisions that she's making, where and you see all the men and kind of the politic players. I don't know all these terms, but the people who are like really invested in this war that's going on with France, I believe, and so they're all lobbying for certain things, and she's kind of not sure what to do. Lady Marlborough is very much running the show, it seems. And then we have Abigail, who comes in and kind of throws a spanner into the works. But it's really, the political side of it and the war and everything is quite interesting. And for someone who isn't that interested in that kind of stuff, I thought it did a really good job of making me interested in that side of the film. But the core, the meat and the bones of this story are the relationship between these three women and how it plays off of everything else. And it's just incredible. This is an amazing film, just from the acting alone. And it helps that the costumes are fantastic. It feels like the period that it's set in, although I've read that it isn't completely historically accurate, which you can also apply to some of the more intimate aspects of the relationships between those three women, which I believe was more speculation than anything, but who knows. But they definitely dive into that in a very obvious, not so subtle way in the movie, which adds another interesting element to this triangle, this very, very intriguing and dynamic and cutting, biting relationship between these three women. Like there's so much venom going on underneath the kind of the faux smiles, and I just love how those three women are so developed, because Abigail at the start is the hero of the story, not the hero, but the protagonist, the person you're rooting for her life to get better. And by the end of the film, spoilers a little bit, she becomes more unlikable. But you understand why she's come to that point in her life, because she was sold off when she was a kid. Had this kind of, this very nice life, no doubt, as a lady, and then was given an absolute, shit life, basically. There's no other way to put it. And so she has found a way to manipulate her present surroundings and the people that she's in contact with, namely the Queen and Lady Marlborough, and she gives herself a better life, basically. And the tension between Sarah and Abigail is just unreal. And again, all three actresses I think were just incredible. Olivia Colman, she plays such a vulnerability, but there's this kind of manic side to her personality where she can snap on a dime, and she can be really like vicious and aggressive, and just like, that's it, I'm stubborn, and change her mind on things just at the drop of a hat. And so they have to kind of contend with that and manipulate that as well. But there's such a tragedy to that character, that real person of Queen Anne, at least as portrayed in the movie by Olivia Colman, that it's just it's gripping to watch. The cinematography is stunning. I thought the way that everything was framed, the camera moving and panning back every now and again was really nicely done. It all felt very fitting and appropriate to this kind of story until we got to the fisheye lens. I don't know about you, when I see a fisheye lens used in anything, I just think of like a 90s, skating video. It did not fit. Like, I felt like I was watching a video, or it just jumped out at me. It's like, okay, you're absorbed in this, you're getting absorbed in this, then, oh, hey, look at that. See, we're in a movie. Okay, now we're back again. Like, that to me just didn't work. I get that he was trying to try something different with the cinematography, but the fisheye lens didn't work for me. And I'm sure there's people who will jump to defend it and give a reason for it, but a minor quibble to be sure, but it's one that definitely jumped out at me. It's like, oh, it kind of just dragged me out of it every now and again. The score is really interesting and different, and really, really works. I love how the score kind of complemented the things that were happening on screen. I love the editing style, where things were happening before you were hearing them, before you were seeing them sometimes, and just very interesting editing. It wasn't kind of trying to be too out there, but it was trying different things that for me did work. I thought maybe the dividing the film into chapters like a book, and kind of the weird font choices were a little bit, I hasten to say the word pretentious, but again, I guess it kind of lends itself to that kind of historical, kind of almost storybook feeling of, being told a story in chapters, I suppose. But I don't know, I didn't quite love that. But these are very completely minor quibbles. I just had to mention them because they did jump out at me when I watched the film. Overall, though, this is an excellent film. It's funny. Like, that's another thing. It's a really funny film, and it's funny from the standpoint of this absolute venom that is being spat back and forth between these women, and even to the men. The men in the film are really interesting because they hold the positions of power, but they very much feel like puppets at the same time. They're being kind of controlled by the women in some cases, and I loved Abigail's kind of her confidence and her kind of the way she holds herself, particularly against the man who's trying to woo her throughout the film. And there's a really funny line that really shouldn't. I mean, there's really darkly funny moments in the film, and there are really kind of gripping and kind of shocking moments in the film as well. So to me, as an overall movie, I thought it was a masterpiece. I really did. Like, someone I know put this in his top 10 films of 2017. I think he's in America, so it must have came out last year for American audiences. And he said in his little write-up about it that the Academy should just give all three women the Oscar. And I completely agree with that, because I think that they all kind of, it's a weird balancing act, Each of their performances work so well because the other two are doing such a great job as well. And I could go into more details and things, but I think people should just see it for themselves. As someone who really doesn't like that period, like, I really dislike the look of all that kind of, the grand kind of rooms and all the wigs and the makeup on the men and stuff. I just hate that style, that kind of, that fashion, that time period. To me, it's just very, I don't know, I don't like it. There's something about it to me that I really don't like. And yet I love the film because the story and the characters were so entertaining and captivating, and I'm just reusing the same words as I always do. So the favourite for me gets 2 massive thumbs up. Love the film, and I would be very surprised if this wasn't on my top 10 or at least top 20 films of 2019 in a year's time, because I think it's truly a masterpiece. Like, I'm trying to cut back on using that word, but I really will give it to this film, because a movie should just be a story that gets you so wrapped up in it. And I'm just thinking about all these scenes now, and just how much I loved them and how much I enjoyed them, or was scared by them, or was intrigued by them, or was entertained by them. It works on so many levels. Phenomenal film. Definitely go see it. And that's, I think, all I've got to say. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause